Goldie Holdings Rod.
Goldie, we are different compared to those big developer in KL. So what is this Goldie? We are basically focused in Muar, Tangka, and Batu Pahat. Now we are a corporate size developer. Okay, so being a player in this Muar, Tangka, and Batu Pahat, this fragmented market, okay, we started the business since 1999. So as of today, we are in the market for 27 years. So being a pocket-sized developer, we are focused in our presence in Muar, Tangka, and also Batu Pahat, and we specialize in develop landed residential development, which align with the local demand and affordabilities. So being a pocket-sized developer, nimble and agile, and that enables us to have a faster decision making in terms of project delivery, and we are very disciplined with our project execution. Furthermore, leverage with a deep market understanding, we are able to consistently deliver products that meets the buyer's preference, okay, and that will support us with a sustainable growth. So in addition, we have an in-house construction team that will enable us to have efficient cost control, quality delivery of the products, and also the timely delivery to our purchaser home buyer. Yeah, that's our different, compared to other big size developer.
Yes, thank you very much. So any questions from the floor? You may proceed to ask a question. Yes.
Hi, Melissa from BFM. I have two questions for you. So my first question is, most of your projects are now currently in Johor. So following the IPO, do you have plans to expand beyond Johor? That's my first question. And my second question, there have been concerns about oversupply in Johor, especially for high-rise units. So how do you ensure your upcoming projects especially will not face similar demand risk?
Thank you, Melissa from BFM. Yeah, a very good question indeed. So, you see what happened is at this moment, we are focused our main turf, which is in Muar, Batu Pahat, and Tangka. Okay, we are the management, is will focus in this area. Once we are, so-called, if should there be any opportunity in the near future after all this thing, then of course we will evaluate the project, and then we'll make a decision. Okay, so this is one thing. Second, I think this is a very, very interesting question of oversupply. Okay, now only at the present market of Muar, Batu Pahat, and Tangka, we do not face this problem. Simply, first of all, like I said just now, our product is mainly like terrace house, double-story terrace house, detached house. Okay, I mean the bungalow. So these are all the landed property market. Okay, so we are not in the so-called, we are not facing this oversupply or the so-called the clutch in the market supply, unlike the Johor Bahru. Okay, because more there is really not much of high rise. Now, if I may add a little bit more, that is in the prospectus, we are actually talking about in next year, 2027, we actually plan to to launch our first high-rise project. Now, rest assured, we have did the proper so-called marketing research around the area. The last completed high-rise project and its apartment and it's like an old type of those apartments was more than 10 years ago. So meaning to say, this segment, apartment is actually underserved market in more. In fact, nowadays people are talking about the lifestyle, talking about those facilities, apartment. You see, so we are in the pipeline to launch that in 2027. Okay, and we are very comfortable with the market simply because that is an underserved market in Muar, or unlike the Johor Bahru, that which those high-rise are like a mushroom or a lot of them. Okay, again, all this depends on the market demand. Right. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you. Any more questions from the floor? Yes. Hi, Lukman here. I just would like to get a little bit clarifications to regard the high rise. When you were saying that you're going to provide the high rise building in the Muar area, is that like do you think the demographic demands for the high rise building will do well in Muar? Because if I believe it correctly, the demands between the Muar area and Johor Bahru area is slightly different. So do you think that the high-rise building will do well, and how big is the GDP and how big in size, how many story, how many units are going to build for the high-rise building in Muar area?
Hi, Lokman. Thank you for the question. Yeah, a little bit more further elaborate on this. Now, you see, like I say, Muar at the moment, this high-rise apartment is actually an underserved market. For the longest time, there's no new project launch in Muar. Okay, so after such a long period of time, certainly there are a lot of purchaser, buyer, they are anxious to have this, so-called apartment or the condominium lifestyle. You see, so nowadays it's a very trendy thing. Even Muar. Have a schedule. You can go to Muar and have a look. So it's a vibrant vibrant town. In fact, with all the new economy or the economic activities coming up. Even we have this Maharani energy hub coming up. It's a big project in Muar. So with all this, and we believe there's such a market demand. And in fact, when we check around, there are really a lot of buyers, asking when Goli is to launch this project. Based on the disclosure in the prospectus, this project is at the moment we are forecast at 400 million. Yeah, it's 599 unit of apartment. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Good afternoon, I'm Thomas from Nation News Channel. First, congratulations to Goli Holdings for launching the prospectus. My first question is based on genuine questions around the more high-rise condominium apartment. At the moment, till today, what's the take-up rate for this high-rise? What's the percentage that has been sold?
Thomas, thanks for the question. At the moment, it's still at the planning stage. We have yet to launch. So, as per this disclosure, the prospectus, we have allocated the land for such a development. Also, at the moment, it's still at the planning stage. We have not launched yet. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. The second question is regarding to KPI. What's the project completion time percentage or on-time delivery?
On-time delivery?
For all your projects.
Is your projects are all on time in completion? I believe that this is Thomas' question.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, like I mentioned earlier, so we are integrated, developer. So the construction, we meaning to say we will manage a project from the start to the end. Okay, and we have an in-house construction team, right? So I can pretty sure to the floor that all our projects are completed within the time frame based on our initial so-called project timeline. Okay, and some of them, in fact, we are much earlier completion than the initial plan. So that's mean to say we always promise on-time delivery. Okay, because why we can do so? Because very much we have an internal team, and the operation teams are very so-called efficient. To monitor the progress of the projects. So yeah, it's all the projects are on time delivery, or in fact earlier completion than the initially scheduled. Thank you.
Congratulations. The second is the percentage of home buyers complaints during defect liability period.
Based on our past records, okay, Muar is a different market compared to like a big city like KL and JB. Okay, so I would say maybe more majority of which, okay, in the range of like 60, 70 and above, can be for the home buyer, self-occupied. Okay, again, Muar is a very different market. Some they may buy it for like future investment purposes. Okay. But based on our past record, there's really not much of a so-called speculate. How to call it? Not for the speculation purpose lah. So it's basically the home buyer. They can be a new first-time buyer. It can be upgraders. New professionals. Okay. Most of which is for self-occupied or for some long-term investment. Okay. Second, you are asking on the defect liability period. As per this HDA, is 24 months. So based on the past experience, in fact, during the defect liability period, the complaint I would say every house, every project, they tend to have some complaints in terms of quality of the products. I was very glad to say we have an internal defect team. Then we will address to the complaint within a reasonable time frame. Okay, of course, it's only through the defect complaint that can make our product much better, right? So over time, we have 110 projects, delivered and completed, and most of which has been sold. So from there, we will gain experience, accumulated, like what is the problem with the house, what causes the defect. And we will so-called technical internal defect team, and we will address the complaint in due time. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. The last question will be the cost of construction materials has increased. So how will this have an effect on Gobi? How does Gobi mitigate this increased cost? Okay.
Yeah. That in this timing it turns out to be our advantage, right? So simply because the internal construction team that helped us a lot. You see, we are not tender out to the so-called. We do not tender the project to the main con. Okay. I'm aware that in this market, some main con are facing the rising of the construction materials, and in fact they don't have the VO, then they have some delivery problems. So we are in a way we are fortunate. We don't really affected by this. Our projects are our own managed schedule. So with this, we will manage our delivery, our construction progress. Okay, and because we will start from the planning to the procurement to the so-called construction work. So procurement, we have the internal procurement team. Then in this kind of timing, of course, we have to do more hard work. We have to source for the new supplier, doesn't compromise with the quality of the material. Okay, so control of the cost that become very handy to us. Okay. And the progress of project, we bear in mind with the delivery time. So long we are managed with the timeline on time delivery. So that gives us some upper hand to control it's like, for example, last week or 2 weeks ago, where the diesel hits, the historical high, 6 something. So what are we going to do? right? So all this is a close relationship with our suppliers, then we can arrange on-time delivery later, right? True enough. We are not speculating anything, but we know when things goes up, definitely they will come down, right? So that how to control, I would say, yes, they certainly have some impact to us, but what we can say is that we will manage the increase, within our capacity, and we work closely with various parties for the best interest of the company, right, in terms of project delivery and the cost, right? Thank you. Thank you, Thomas.
So I just want to add on, right? So that just now I mentioned about customers, past customers. I think part of your customers also including the locals in Johor that that work in Singapore, right? They buy their homes in more areas as well. So this is part of the customers as well, right?
Okay, thanks, Gaji. That we're talking about our buyer profile. Basically, more, again, I should say this, more is a little bit different compared to Johor Bahru East. Okay, so we do not really rely on the Singaporean buyers. Okay, but we do, in a way, benefited from those local works in Singapore. Okay, so this they work in Singapore. They have they may have they are planning to have to come back to Muar in the future, so they can buy the house, okay, or sometimes they can buy for their parents or whoever. So in that sense, we actually benefited from there. But we are not like JB market, which they are very much on, you can say speculative market. We are not into that market. Okay, so really we are more genuine buyer, some long-term investors. Okay,
Right. Thank you. We have time for one more question. Yes, Numan.
Hello. Can I just get a little bit clarifications on your ongoing project, two ongoing project, one future project that you mentioned in the prospectus? It is a build constructed in a JV form. Can I just get a little bit clarification on how the JV works? Do you have the larger, bigger share in the JV, and how the profits sharing is going to work once it's completed?
okay. Thank you, Lokman, for the question. Yeah, it's a very important and interesting question, especially to Muar market, right? Okay, we have two so-called land bank side source. One is, of course, our own land bank. We buy the land by ourselves. Okay. Second is that we have a joint venture with the landowners. Okay. So it's part of our business model, in fact. Okay. So basically, to enter into the JV, my director and the management team, they will carry out a series of evaluation. Right. First of all, they have to evaluate whether the project is it within the development zoning, right? And then what is they can like zoning for the housing, they can be a zoning for the industrial. So all this we have to make sure the zoning, and we also have to be very sure the land use, the purpose, okay, and whether it is like what time horizon we're talking about. Is it like within the next 2 years, next 3 years? Whether meaning say are they able to develop within certain period of time, okay? So location is of course the key when you're talking about the development, right? So have all these things been ironed out, then lastly is about the JV entitlement. Now this is a business and a commercial decision. Okay, every JV is unique, right? So in terms of the JV model is that the landowner, they will have entitlement. Simply put, we will say normally based on the entitlement based on the gross development value, right? It is a business decision. It can be ranging like 20% to 30%, or depends on each negotiation. And after the JV sign, enter, we will carry out our role as a developer. We right start from the planning, how to get the development order, to get the approval, and then after that to plan for the execution of the project. Okay, after the complete of the project, then we'll hand over the project end, and then we will settle with the landowner, be it house or let's say, for example, if they say we talk about a 20 million project. Okay, let's say the entitlement is like 30%. Meaning to say their entitlement is 6 million. In terms of percentage, usually.
So do you mean that the JV does not have any equity shareholding equity structure, is it?
Pardon? I
You
can't.
mean that the JV does not have any equity structure between you and the landowner, is it? Is it that what you're trying to do?
We must be very careful to talk about the equity interest. If you're talking about equity interest in terms of the company, definitely no. The respective joint venture partner, they have their share on their land based on the gross development value only, right? Because that land is belong to them, right? Okay, that is about all. There's no anything to do with the company equity or whatsoever. So strictly on the land, okay, entitlement.
Then how the profit sharing works between those entities?
Profit sharing?
Yeah, meaning like once the project completed, then how the profits, the sales value that you're going to extract from the projects between you and the landowner?
Now, like I mentioned just now, once we enter before we enter into JV agreement, we will iron out their entitlement right away. Like I say, if your entitlement is 25% of the JV development value, gross development value, that means to say the landowner, they will entitle for 25% of that project value.
But that's the
That's all.
example, yeah. There's an example of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I clear?
Yeah. And then just a little bit curious, okay, so you have like a 3 ongoing project and 1 future projects, which is you're going to partly fund based on the 11 million from the IPO. And then if I'm not mistaken, you also have like around 10 ongoing projects and 27 future projects if you take the overall projects. Then how are you going to fund for the remaining, especially the ongoing project? Are you going to do any some sort of future fundraising exercise?
Okay. Thank you very much. Of this IPO proceed, right, 11.2 million will be allocated for this 3 ongoing project and 1 future projects. Okay. Besides the IPO proceed, of course, we will finance the project through bank working capitals, bank borrowings, and also the internal generator fund from the sales. Yeah.
So any future fundraising exercise aside from that?
At this juncture, I would say as of today, there's none.
Fundraising, any exercise, I think, will be based on IPO for now.
Yeah. As of today, that is our fundraising. The IPO purpose.
Yeah.
Future, well, let's talk about it later. Yeah. Thank you, Norman.
Any more questions on the floor? Yeah.
High issue for Secure Daily. I just want to check because based on your prospectus, the utilization is mostly for the 3 ongoing project and the 1 future project. So is there any plan on the land banking action? Maybe are you going to do some land banking in the 3 areas they focus?
Thank you for the question. As of today, IPO, I think we are very clear on the proceed utilization. That's for to finance 3 ongoing projects and 1 future projects. That's about the project. Of course, the answer is that yes, we will be looking at land banks, additional land bank for future development. This process will continue because that is the so-called bread and butter of our developer business. whenever there's new opportunity or good opportunity arise, right, within our financial capacity, we will evaluate that, okay, and we will make a decision, okay, be it to buy or to enter into a joint venture agreement, okay. But we do believe from this IPO process, as the established so-called property developer in Muar, Tangka, and Batu Pahat, it will increase our so-called our reputation, being a company listed in the Bursa, and the opportunity will come, and we have to evaluate carefully for the benefit of the stakeholder, right? Thank you.
Yeah.